Azure AI services offer a suite of tools and APIs that enable developers to integrate AI capabilities into their applications. These services include machine learning, cognitive services, and bot services, among others. Managing authentication for these services is crucial to ensure secure and efficient access. In this presentation, we will explore the various aspects of managing authentication for an Azure AI service resource, including the types of authentication methods available, best practices, and common challenges. Authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a user or application. In the context of Azure AI services, authentication ensures that only authorized users and applications can access the resources. This is critical for maintaining the security and integrity of the data and services. Without proper authentication, sensitive data could be exposed, and unauthorized users could potentially misuse the AI capabilities. Therefore, understanding and implementing robust authentication mechanisms is essential for any Azure AI solution. Azure AI services support several authentication methods, each with its own use cases and benefits. The primary methods include API keys, Azure Active Directory, AAD tokens, and managed identities. API keys are simple to use, but can be less secure if not managed properly. AAD tokens provide a more secure and scalable solution, especially for enterprise applications. Managed identities offer a seamless way to authenticate without managing credentials. We will delve into each of these methods in the following slides. API key authentication involves using a unique key to access Azure AI services. This method is straightforward and easy to implement, making it suitable for small-scale applications or development environments. However, API keys must be managed carefully to prevent unauthorized access. Keys should be stored securely, rotated regularly, and never hard-coded in the application code. Despite its simplicity, API key authentication may not be the best choice for large-scale or highly secure applications due to its potential vulnerabilities. Azure Active Directory (AAD) tokens provide a more secure and scalable authentication method compared to API keys. AAD tokens are issued by Azure AD and can be used to authenticate users and applications. This method supports single sign-on, SSO, and multi-factor authentication, MFA, enhancing security. AAD tokens are particularly useful for enterprise applications that require robust security and compliance. Implementing AAD token authentication involves configuring Azure AD, registering the application, and obtaining tokens through OAuth 2.0 protocols. Managed identities for Azure resources simplify the process of authenticating to Azure services. With managed identities, you don't need to manage credentials manually. Azure automatically manages the identity lifecycle, including key rotation. Managed identities can be system-assigned or user-assigned. System-assigned identities are tied to the lifecycle of the resource, while user-assigned identities are independent and can be shared across multiple resources. This method is highly secure and reduces the risk of credential exposure. To implement API key authentication, you first need to generate an API key from the Azure portal. Once you have the key, you can include it in the request headers when calling the Azure AI Service APIs. It's crucial to store the API key securely, such as in Azure Key Vault, and avoid hard-coding it in your application. Regularly rotate the keys to minimize the risk of unauthorized access. Additionally, monitor the usage of API keys to detect any suspicious activity and respond promptly. Implementing AAD token authentication involves several steps. First, register your application in the Azure AD portal. Next, configure the necessary permissions and grant consent. Use OAuth 2.0 protocols to obtain access tokens, which can then be included in the request headers when calling Azure AI Service APIs. Ensure that your application handles token expiration and refreshes tokens as needed. Implementing AAD token authentication provides enhanced security features such as SSO and MFA, making it suitable for enterprise applications. To implement managed identities, enable the Managed Identity feature for your Azure resource through the Azure portal or CLI. Once enabled, the resource can obtain tokens from Azure AD without needing to manage credentials. Use these tokens to authenticate to Azure AI services. Managed identities simplify the authentication process and enhance security by eliminating the need to handle credentials manually. This method is particularly useful for applications running on Azure VMs, app services, or other Azure resources. When managing authentication for Azure AI services, follow best practices to ensure security and efficiency. Use the principle of least privilege, granting only the necessary permissions to users and applications. Regularly rotate credentials and monitor their usage. Store sensitive information, such as API keys and tokens, securely using services like Azure Key Vault. Implement multi-factor authentication, MFA, for added security. Additionally, stay informed about the latest security updates and recommendations from Azure to keep your authentication mechanisms robust. Managing authentication for Azure AI services can present several challenges. These include handling token expiration, managing credentials securely, and ensuring compliance with security policies. To address these challenges, implement automated processes for token refresh and credential rotation. Use Azure Key Vault to store and manage sensitive information securely. Regularly audit your authentication mechanisms and update them as needed to comply with security standards. By proactively addressing these challenges, you can maintain a secure and efficient authentication system for your Azure AI services. Let's explore a case study of an enterprise implementing authentication for Azure AI services. The company needed to integrate AI capabilities into their existing applications while ensuring robust security. They chose AAD token authentication for its enhanced security features and managed identities for seamless credential management. By following best practices and addressing common challenges, the company successfully implemented a secure and scalable authentication system. This case study highlights the importance of choosing the right authentication methods and following best practices to achieve a secure Azure AI solution. In conclusion, managing authentication for Azure AI services is a critical aspect of ensuring secure and efficient access to AI capabilities. Understanding the different authentication methods, such as API keys, AAD tokens, and managed identities, is essential for choosing the right approach for your application. Following best practices and addressing common challenges can help maintain a robust authentication system. By implementing secure authentication mechanisms, you can protect sensitive data and ensure that only authorized users and applications can access your Azure AI services.